Good morning and welcome back to the John Fredericks Show, Common Sense for the Commonwealth. We're broadcasting from the nation's capital and blasting our way through Virginia from Washington, D.C., right through to Virginia Beach and on down. This is the Straight Talk Express. Speaking of common sense in Virginia Beach, we've got with us Virginia Beach Republican State Senator Jeff McWaters, and the senator has been an advocate of trying to fix transportation in the state regionally for some time. And sometimes we think he's got a great idea, just beating his head against the proverbial wall. Welcome to the show. Fabulous as always to have you on.
Thank you very much. I want to congratulate you guys on the great work you've done in terms of expanding your listener base and expanding the guests that you've had on the show. It's been great. John, we're up here in Richmond the first week, ending our first week. We have a lot of great moving parts. One of the things I'm proud of our Republican colleagues and Democratic colleagues on is the fact that we're really working hard in this short session to try to take on some really big issues.
Well, the biggest one being transportation. Senator, the governor, in his speech welcoming the convening of the assembly, laid out a pretty bold plan trying to finally solve this ongoing transportation crisis that included abolishing the gasoline tax, taking a percentage and an additional sales tax, targeting that to transportation, taking a piece of the existing sales tax, targeting that away from the general fund to transportation. But it's come under fire from everybody. Why?
Well, you can pick apart every deal. You can pick apart every idea out there in the marketplace of ideas. Let me just kind of back up and say, number one, we have got to do something this year. We've had a Republican governor for 4 years. We've had Republican control of the House for 4 years and almost full control of the Senate for last year and this year. And so there's no more excuses. We have got to come up with a viable plan. And the governor's been trying. And the reason is by 2017, we basically are not going to be able to match the federal funds to do new construction. All the money will be towards repair and maintenance. And as you know, in my part of the state, with salt water, bridges, tunnels, and all of the above, we have a real challenge. Look, I think that as you look at the details of the plan, there are concerns. You can take any one of the line items, and there are kind of philosophic concerns about, should you be taxing the user of the road directly through a gas tax, or should you be attaching it to a sales tax, which is a more broader base of taxpayers? I think the good news on the idea is that it's in its early years, it's pretty much neutral. The cost to taxpayers is about the same, but as more goods and services come on our roadways and come across our railways and come through containers, et cetera, into the state, as those goods and services are purchased using the highway road system, that tax will fund it more effectively. So, you can go at it almost either way. I would tell you this, though. I'm not a tax guy, John. As you know, I've never voted for a tax increase here. I've never proposed a tax increase. I really think we're partially missing the boat by not taking money from the general fund, and so that's what this bill does. I've had bills in every year, including this year, because I think when taxpayers pay into the general fund, that's a core service of transportation, and it shouldn't be treated any differently. It should be prioritized and argued about just like any other service. And to say that you can't use money from the multi-billion-dollar general fund for transportation, I think is wrong.
Well, that definitely makes sense. One of the issues, though, Senator, is even if we did that in Virginia, there's just not enough discretionary dollars there in order to really start to solve this crisis, because it takes billions of dollars.
That's true. Well, the interesting thing about the governor's plan, and I do think it will be changed and modified and in some cases improved, and I hope to be able to support it when it does. It's not final. We're at the beginning of the process, not the end of the process.
Right.
But I do think that his plan includes some money from the general fund and not an enormous amount. I think it starts out fairly reasonable, very reasonable, actually.
Yes.
And what it's really based upon is the growth in the economy that will drive general sales over the next 5 years. and 0.8%, not even 1 cent, not even 1 penny, less than 1 penny addition to the sales tax. Which, by the way, and we can talk about it if you'd like, what we've proposed in terms of our planning district in Hampton Roads in terms of a referendum to also consider increasing the sales tax there.
Well, I mean, I think that makes sense. I'm a conservative too, Senator. I don't want to raise taxes either to just go into a black hole. But, if there's a lockbox system, the money can get allocated for fixing transportation. I mean, if you're in Northern Virginia like we are now, or you're in Southeast Virginia like I was, I mean, the transportation issue is just staggering. And I think if we don't solve this problem, and you're going to have to solve it by raising taxes on something, because the money in the general fund simply is not there. So as conservatives, people have to just be realists, because if we don't solve this, it's eventually going to suffocate the economy, because companies simply are not going to come in to either of these regions because you can't drive any place, Senator. As a conservative, we got to fix transportation in these two regions. There's not enough money in the general fund. There's got to be a tax. But, Senator, I know for a fact, whenever you go into a Tea Party meeting and present your plan, you get 100 people show up with placards denouncing it. How do you navigate your way beyond all that?
Sure. Well, look, I just had that experience. I've always said in business, I'm a business person, not a politician. I've said in business and I've said in politics, you run to the danger because often you're going to learn something. And, I had a great meeting with several, great patriots and friends of our country, probably 70, 80 this week, all from, taxpayer concerns group, libertarian groups, etc. And I get their message, and I understand what they're saying. They're saying, we can no longer afford our government. Look, we're struggling in our own homes. We don't go out to dinner very much. We're driving a car that's 3 years older than it used to be, than we're comfortable with.
Yes.
Our kids' college educations, are going skyrocketing, and they're saying that government, has to find ways to solve its own problems more cost effectively and quit asking us for money because we don't have it. I get that. I totally agree with that. You do have the reality of what we're dealing with here, where we have to balance keeping jobs in Virginia. I'm a jobs-oriented person, and you just said it a minute ago. Whether I live in a tourist area and a military area, and just after seeing Sandy, we live in an area that can have issues with hurricanes and nor'easters, and so we can't be a cul-de-sac, as they say. You live in one of the most, I think now ranked, the most congested area of the United States of America. So, if we hadn't cut $6 billion out of the budget, I would not be in favor of 1 penny increase in any tax. But we've tried to make government more efficient. I'm even on a tax preference committee that's going to look at making government even more efficient. We have other things we're trying to do to cut the cost of government. But this is an area where we have to prioritize, and so we think that, in the Southampton Roads areas, what we're trying to do is we're going to put it to the voters, and that's what we've said to those who don't want higher taxes. Look, we'll give you a chance to vote it up or down. Right. It's a 1%, just so people aren't confused. The governor has a plan. The delegation in Southampton Roads has a plan. It's not our favorite plan necessarily, but I've got 3 other bills in. But this one particular bill is to raise the sales tax in Southampton Roads 1 penny, 1%. That will generate about $195 million. And it's a referendum. It'll be on next November's ballot. So if voters want it, if they want the investment, the money will stay just in our area in a lockbox. If they want that, they can vote it up or down this November. The interesting thing, John, just to make one more point about it, for us to get $195 million into our area, in other words, if there was a statewide gas tax and then it was allocated to our area, the gas tax had to be 36 cents. 36 cents is a lot to add to a gas tax for those who argue, why don't you just easily raise the gas tax?
So what you're saying, if I understand it, is to get that same $195 million for your region, which is Southeast Virginia, typically everybody refers to it as Hampton Roads, to get that same $195 million through your proposal, which, by the way, you want to have a plebiscite. You want to put it on the ballot and, up or down, in or out, let people decide. But what you're saying is, in lieu of that, to get the same $195 million in transportation funds allocated to Southeast Virginia so people can drive from point A to point B, to get the same $195 million if you did it through a gas tax, you would have to increase the gas tax statewide by 36 cents. Now, that just makes no sense at all.
Yeah, because there's nine regions, and those 9 regions would all get their.
So it all have to get allocated out. So what you're saying is,
with you,
right?
Yeah, in the world of transportation, while $195 million is a ton of money, in the world of transportation, it's not that much money to do that much. You can't replace a bridge tunnel or even a bridge. These are billion-dollar projects.
Yes,
but it's a start. It's a good start. I think we can do some things with it. It's as much as we can do right now. It will help with repairs as well as new construction. So it's kind of where we are.
He's also got an idea that we take a sales tax for transportation, add a penny, allocate it back to the region. His is Southeast Virginia. And what he's saying is, hey, put it on the ballot and let the residents that have to deal with the problem decide up or down. I think that makes a lot of sense. We definitely advocate that. If I could switch over a minute, Senator, in the time that we have, one of the other issues coming down the pike right now center on voting rights. Delegate Rob Bell, who's also a candidate for Attorney General, is trying to strengthen voter ID laws. The Democrats don't want that. They want to extend polling places open till 8 p.m., saying that because of the traffic, people need the extra time. How do you think that this will shake out in this session?
Well, it's interesting. We always have a lot, especially after elections where there's been problems. We had a new ID process. We had, various issues, cold weather, lots of things in this last election cycle, and a 70+% turnout, which, we normally see in the 40s and that kind of thing. So there'll be a lot of ideas kicked around. I have some basic principles, around voting. I feel like that the process is a sacred process in America, and if you don't, believe me, just ask the men and women who went out and fought in World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War. I mean, just the sacred value they hold in being able to vote. So I just think it has to be extremely carefully managed. Now, I will tell you this, we'll see, but I have a bill in, which may surprise some people. When I observed, and I went to probably 7 to 10 voting stations in the presidential election, and I observed too many of our seniors, 65 and over, in terrible weather conditions for hours outside. And so I do have a bill, and I'm sure people got sick. I'm a healthcare guy. I'm sure people got sick, and it was very uncomfortable for them. And so I have a bill in for absentee voting for 65 years and older, no excuse. In other words, you can do it just because you don't feel like it would be healthy for you to go to the polls that day.
Well, that is a common sense approach. I mean, it just defies logic that somebody would argue against giving a senior the opportunity to vote absentee and not have to stand in line or get there with whatever issues they have. That makes a lot of sense.
They deserve it. They deserve that opportunity, and I think we can manage that. When you start loosening it up too much, there does have the opportunity for fraud and mismanagement and those kind of things. But I think we could manage this 65 and older.
I got to tell you, Senator, every time we have you on, you make great sense. That's why we always have you on the Common Sense Express right here on the John Fredericks Show. Senator Jeff McWaters, we want to thank you for your time, and we look forward to continuing our dialogue during this session as you're camped out there in Richmond. And
thanks,
again,
John. Come down to see us and keep up the good work.
We will. We'll be down there and probably for Hobby Day. So, again, thanks for joining us, Senator. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, my friend.